Hey, good afternoon, guys. Today's April 15th, Friday. We're starting our spring PowerSchool user group virtual webinar. Thanks for joining us. Today's agenda, just wanted to mention PowerSchool Academy registration should be opening soon. We're still waiting on a couple of vendors and third parties such as PowerSchool to get scheduled for their courses. There should be pretty exciting topics this year in regards to the new Power Teacher, the new reporting tool, and a couple other features we'll see coming out within the next couple months. Then Chris Wilkinson will be joining us here in a couple minutes to discuss the state reporting updates, anything that's new, anything that you guys have questions on. Feel free to put them in the questions or comments box along your right-hand side. And then lastly, John Paul will be joining to discuss some of the things I just mentioned about PowerSchool updates. Also on the conference today is John Mall and Cheryl Peters from MCIU and CLIU. If you guys want to jump in and say anything that I missed.
I think you did a great job, Dave. Hi, everybody. Glad you could join us.
All right, great. So we'll jump right in. Just to mention that our website is ps-solutions.org. You can find the PowerSchool Academy registration opening up soon. As I said, I'll send out an email to this distribution list as well as our PowerSchool Academy distribution list. So you should be fully aware as soon as it opens up, and the full class list will be listed there. So with that said, I'll go ahead and toss this over to Chris. We'll get started.
Can you hear me? I think
Yes,
I'm
Sound
muted.
good, Chris?
Yep.
Oh, okay, good.
I can hear you.
All right, so let me show. It said show my screen.
Yep, we can see it.
Can you see the? Okay.
Yep.
I haven't been re-imaged yet, so my computer I think is coming today. So to not say Pearson on it anymore, you know, they're PowerSchool. Okay, so. What I did is I have a very high-level overview of, let me see if I can just show this slide from the beginning. See, that never works. It always does something really strange. Are you seeing nothing but black right now?
Nope, we can see your screen.
All right, okay, good. All right. Well, I couldn't. When I went to total full presentation mode, I could not see everything. So I'm back here. You can see the slides on the side.
Yep.
Okay, so what I've done is just basically done a high-level overview of the updates that we have been working on from January till April, and then what's coming out in the next couple of releases, and then what's the future roadmap. So I'm just going to go over those items, and at the end I'll take questions, and there might be at some point where I actually demonstrate some stuff on PowerSchool that I think would be important for everybody to know. So on this first slide here, I have all the different reports that we recently worked on January through April. There were numerous changes to some of these reports. I didn't call those changes out. There were quite a few changes to the staff student subtest report. There was a new requirement from the state that we added. So on the EWS, for those of you who are learning or starting to use the early morning dashboard, it looks like I did get a list of school districts from the state that the state is actually going around offering implementation services for EWS, and I am their resource for that. In any case, there's quite a few school districts that appear to be hopping on the bandwagon for the early morning dashboard. For our discipline templates, the updates to the early warning dashboard discipline templates, it's not all of the discipline templates that you do for PEMS, but it's some of them. And we didn't have the option on those to run for a selection of students, so we went back in and updated all those reports so that you can run those for a selection of students if you want to. There was an update to the school enrollment template, to the person template. We actually discovered during QA work, doing some other QA work, that victims were not extracting correctly on the person template. And then there's the student template snapshot, EWS. It wasn't extracting fields 38 and 80. There's a lot of other work. These were just the main ones that I went back through and looked through my list of tickets that we had been working on. And these are the main, the ones that it appeared like there was, even in some cases, more than one issue that was reported, or more than one update that was needed. So those are the reports that we've recently been working on the last 3 months. UI updates and changes. Some of these were requests from users. So we were asked to expose the district code of enrollment, which was field 217, on all the student enrollment pages. So that means on a page where you're looking at their current enrollment or their previous enrollment or creating a new enrollment, all of those pages, that field is now exposed. It actually was in, I think it was actually in the re-enrollments table already, but it just wasn't showing, it wasn't on the page. So that has been fixed. We had a request to allow users to edit the graduation status code field on the PA Secure ID tab. So that was done. We added the diploma type code to the edit enrollment pages. We updated some alert messages for primary teacher field. And I'm going to actually go into PowerSchool here in a few minutes and kind of explain some things that are going on that have an impact to this field and several reports. Also, update changes to the message on the staff assignment page. And then also, we updated the PA grade code field. This was big. You wouldn't think adding additional values to that field would cause us to have to do much else in PowerSchool, but there were about 15 reports that needed to be have logic updated in them because we added additional values to this field. And when I go into PowerSchool, I'll explain why we did that and the need for that. Okay. Actually, and so for the upcoming release, I actually just had someone ask the other day about CRDC. And we are working on adding new fields. There are, I would consider, some substantial changes for the CRDC 1516. So what it is with CRDC, you'll be reporting data from this year. It will get reported in fall of next school year. And I wish the federal government was a little bit more cooperative, but they're kind of late in getting out the requirements. So I know that some of these new fields that we're adding, it's kind of like you're going to have to go back in time and possibly update some incidents because we're just going to be getting that information out there. But we really didn't have much of an option. There'll be some page updates. So there'll be an update to the page in PowerSchool that's on the district info page for CRDC, and then the page on the schools and school info, that CRDC page. There will be an update to the users table, which is teachers, and I'll explain that in a minute as well. We'll go into PowerSchool and actually look at the stuff. So quite a few changes, not a lot of changes for CRDC, but enough that it will cause a little bit of work for the school districts to get that data populated in preparation for the new reports. The new reports will be released later on, I'm thinking this summer, so they'll be called CRDC 1516. Right now they're referred to as CRDC 13 and 14. So for all of you that are concerned about CRDC, we are aware of the new requirements and we are working on getting that new information, the new fields released as quickly as we can. Table 9A is a report that's been requested for quite some time. And so we got the requirements for that, and we're currently working on that report. We recently added some new fields to meet the requirements of Table 9A. There were only a couple new fields that needed to be added, and but the rest I think you're already collecting. We will be using incident management data for this report. So those of you who are using log entries, the Table 9A report will not work for you. You need to be using incident management. So maybe that will be an encouragement for all of you to move to using incident management for your discipline information. I know that there's some districts out there that are still hanging on to logs, and that's fine because the state hasn't really changed the requirements for PEMS reports, but I think I've been saying for the last 2 years, any changes to school safety or a new report like the Table 9A that needs to look at discipline data, we are going to be using incident management tables for that. Okay, so just know that, and I think this report will be ready to be released in the next couple of months. We'll probably I'll probably do a beta with the Pennsylvania Focus Group, the team of people that work with me, and ask them to do some beta testing on this before we actually release it. But that's where we're at right now. Currently, something that we're working on. The course instructor template EWS, we need to make some changes to the report and the UI. These are pretty hefty changes, which I'm going to demo here in a second and explain why, the need for this change. And also not here on my list, but we are right now starting to work on data migration of the state reporting fields. That won't be released for another couple of months, but it takes a couple of months to prepare for the migration of the state fields, and I'm going to show what that looks like to all of you here in a few seconds. So let me bring up PowerSchool. See if I can get into my test server here. And the first thing I want to talk about is, let me know if you can see it, because I just moved it over to my screen that I'm sharing. I'm hoping everybody can see this.
Yep,
can you
we can see it. Yep.
Okay, good. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is the course instructor template, the EWS version, and then the PIMS version. Okay. So even though they're named the same, and we often have been getting confused, and I know there's some customers that have been reporting that when they click on their state tab, they see EWS reports in here and they're confused. They don't know which one to run for sure. So just to let you know, that is a known issue, and we are fixing that. What the issue is, I'll explain the technology behind this. So this was new kind of functionality that was added in 8.3 to allow us to add a tab for state reporting purposes, an additional tab for state reporting purposes. When we did that, every report that had, so if you look at EWS, I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it. For example, incident template. Well, that's what it's called for PIMS. So the first thing that we had to do was rename our reports. They had to be unique. So the EWS one had to have a unique name, and then the one on the state reporting page had to be different than the EWS one. That is why on some of the reports you see RE. Because, for example, on the student course enrollment template, we have 2 of these reports. One that was for a specific year, and then a new one written in SRP format. So long story short of it, every single report on a report submission page has to have its own unique name. What we recently discovered was these headers, or what we refer to as categories, also need to be unique. So if you're seeing EWS reports on your state reporting submission page, it's because the header or the category was the same on both tabs. And so we are fixing that, because you shouldn't be seeing that, and it should not be a confusion to people. And the main thing to remember here is that EWS, even though the reports are named the same, the requirements are drastically different. In a very big way, they're different. So even though it's the course instructor template, EWS, the requirements for the EWS template and the PIMS template are completely different. One of the big things I'm going to call out right now, and this is what's going to require us to make this change, and I'm only showing this change to you because it's a pretty big change in PowerSchool. On the course instructor template EWS, you do not report just one primary teacher. On the PIMS, you report one primary teacher and there's no dates involved. But on the course instructor template EWS, you report as many teacher of records teachers that ever taught that section and the dates that they taught it. So it's kind of like we have these two reports that are conflicting with each other, and the way that we're capturing the data in PowerSchool right now doesn't meet the requirements for the EWS template, because we need to pull the teacher of record and the dates that the teacher of record taught that section, not just one teacher of record. So our idea is to do the following. So let me change schools here. Go into school setup and go to a section. And I'm just going to see if I can pick a section so I can show you. Okay, so on our sections, we have this area right here, teacher section lead. And all of this data, staff, role, allocation, start date, end date, all of this information is in a table called section teacher table. Okay? Then everything else, as we all know, on this page is in the sections table. Right down here, we have this field called primary teacher, and if you're doing the course instructor for PIMS, and you have more than one lead teacher assigned to a section for whatever reason, well, you can only report one. And the question's always been, which lead teacher? You have more than one, and I totally understand. I mean, the main functionality of this, all this data in the section teacher table was to give more than one person access to the gradebook, and when you have a long-term sub, to be able to add them so that they can have access to the gradebook and so on. But we also use this information for state reporting. We use it for the staff student sub-test report. We use it for the course instructor template. There's a lot of reports that use this information. You have to kind of try to make it fit into everything that we need it to do. And so right now for the course instructor PIMS, if you have more than one teacher assigned, you actually get an error message, a warning, and says you must choose a primary teacher. And that's the primary teacher that we report. The teacher of record is what it's also referred to. That's the one that's reported on the course instructor, and there aren't any dates. There's no dates. The state just wants to know who was the teacher of record for this section. So this is used as an override, and if you have two lead teachers, you're forced to choosing a primary teacher. That's how it functions right now. Well, now we have to deal with the course instructor template EWS, and it wants to know each primary teacher or teacher of record, every single one that's ever taught, been attached to a section, and the dates. And so right now it's not working correctly. What we're going to do is extend this table. And so when you click add, you'll get to add, you know, your lead teacher and all of that information. And over here on this little notepad sign, when you click on that, a window pops up. Right now it says notes, but we'll be adding information here that says something, you know, that says primary teacher, and you'll be able to pick from the drop down the primary teacher override for that lead teacher. Can you hang on for a second? Someone is knocking on my door, and I think it's my new laptop from PowerSchool, so hang on one second because I have to sign for it. My apologies.
And while we're waiting on Chris, I just want to jump in here and just remind you guys, if you have any questions throughout this, on the right-hand side of your GoToWebinar box, you should see a questions option there. If you have any, just type them in there and send them. At the end here, we can go over a couple. If we have time, we can go over all of them, and then we'll reply, get Chris's answer, and then share those answers to everyone. So just a reminder there while we wait on Chris to come back.
Sorry about that. I knew I had to sign for it or else they were gonna take it back. So, okay, so on this little note, this little link where you click on here under actions, there's going to be additional fields added. There's going to be a field added for to do an override to each lead teacher. And because you can have more than one primary teacher on the course instructor EWS, you're going to be able to override each lead teacher that you have in here, and you won't need to indicate which one is the only one that you need to report. Now, because we didn't want everyone to have to hurry and fix this data for their course instructor PEMS template, we're going to make sure that it's called out here in big red letters that this right now is only going to be used for EWS. Eventually, we might use this functionality for the course instructor PEMS. But right now, because I know that you're getting ready to do course instructor, you know, end of year and all of that sort of thing, that I don't want everybody to have to worry about coming in here and fixing their primary teachers. And so we're going to make that it's very clear that this new addition that we're going to be doing is just going to be for EWS. Okay? So that's going to be happening in the next couple of releases. It's a fair amount of work because we're actually extending this table, adding some new fields, and making that so that right now the course instructor template, the EWS version of it doesn't work like it's supposed to. So we are fixing on that. Okay, so so when you see that and you go, oh my gosh, what's this? I need to fill it out. You only need to fill it out if you're using EWS. You do not need to fill it. You will not need to fill it out for your primary teacher information. Okay. So all these messages I'm getting from people. So back to my PowerPoint here that just disappeared. I don't know why it's doing that. Hang on. Sorry about that. Let me get that back up. It's the strangest thing. I've lost my PowerPoint for some reason. I was having this problem earlier when I was talking to John Paul earlier. I couldn't, it's like it hides itself somewhere. So I guess I won't go back to my PowerPoint. And what I'll do is I'll just bring up another document to kind of, it's so strange. I don't understand. Oh, maybe it's right here. No? Okay. I'm assuming you can all see my blue screen. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Hang on. I cannot get this PowerPoint to show up. It's like hiding over here somewhere.
Did you want to just close it out and try to open
I
it again?
tried. Yeah, I tried to do that.
Okay.
So close the window. All right, well, let me see if I can get something else up here to demo, to just write out what I want to explain for the roadmap. Since that does not appear to be working, and I don't know why. Open. See, I say open, and it goes somewhere, and I'm not sure where. Okay. Okay, so for the roadmap, I actually had a conversation with John Paul before this call, and I had an idea of the items that I was going to put on the roadmap. It looks like I can't even get my word. They're all going up somewhere to some other screen, and I can't get it. Sorry. It's like, maybe if I go back into this here. Sorry, technical difficulties here. I can't even get the go-to meeting back in here. Very strange. Don't know what's going on. Yeah, 1 second. Okay. I don't know what's going on. I can't get Word to work. They are opening up in another window somewhere, and it's because I'm presenting this window, and I can't figure out how to get out of presenting this window. So I'll just talk. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what the deal is, but I can tell that this window is being presented, but I don't see how to turn that off. Anyway, so as far as the roadmap goes, what we have planned, number one on our list right now to work on is data migration. And when we talk about data migration, we talk about making available for you the state custom fields to migrate. And this is a very, very big project. We hope to have it done by, right now my goal is no later than the 1st of July. And so I want to show you exactly what, and I know I've demoed this before in the past, so my apologies if I feel like I'm repeating myself, but you have over 300 custom fields in Pennsylvania that will need to be migrated. And what that means is that there's a process in place that we have developed that allows you to run the migration and validate your data. So right now, all of your data is being currently kept for state custom fields in what we call clobbed fields. And they're not defined. So they're just defined as a string with so many characters. And so with the new database extension functionality, every single field gets defined. And you will no longer be able to import bad data or type in bad data into fields that are in the data in a database extension table. So that's the really good thing about database extensions. It really makes it so that you have to have clean data. So right now, you might have, for example, some bad data in a field, and you don't even know it. The kid's transferred out. You're not seeing it anymore. It was 15 years ago. You've been using PowerSchool for that long, and the data's there, and you don't even know that you've got, a non-date in a date field, because PowerSchool lets you do that. You can import in whatever you want into any custom field, any string of text that you want, and you're not going to get an error on it until you do your state report or when you happen to maybe export out data, then you can see it. Otherwise, you're not really seeing errors. So during the data migration process, what's going to happen is we're going to identify and define every single one of these custom fields. And we're going to say, oh, it's a string of 2, or it's a string of 10, or it's a date field, or it's a double. A double is when we need to put currency, for example, in a field. So there's all these different, there's about 5 or 6 different definitions for fields, and once we define them, if you have data in a clogged field or a current field, we refer to them as legacy fields, and then you go to migrate it, it'll prompt you to clean up your data. And so the process is going to be like this. You're going to go to System. Once we release these, we're going to go to System, you're going to go to Page and Data Management, and you're going to go to Custom Field Data Migration. Oops, and you have to be in District. I do that every time. So back, System, Page and Data Management, Custom Field Data Migration. And right here you can see on this test server that the user created custom fields has not been done yet. So you can do those whenever you want. These are your fields, okay? And then also there are some core custom fields that need to be migrated. When we do this release, you'll come to this drop down and you'll see several, I'm going to tell you probably 20 plus selections of different data sets fields, data field sets that you'll be able to migrate. So right now we're working on that. We're going through every single one of the fields. We're defining them. In some cases, we're renaming the field so that it makes more sense. Some of the field names right now kind of like really don't make a lot of sense, the field name itself. And so this is the opportunity that we have right now to clean that up. So so you'll get here and there's a lot of different checks that you're going to have to do. You'll have to do a migration readiness check that basically checks to make sure you don't have duplicate fields in your fields table. And then when you actually pick, like for example, if I was to choose core field, then I would go get my migration report and it's going to check to see if I have any bad data in core custom fields that are longer than 4,000 characters. That's the only thing that they're checking for, core is. For our migration report and our migration checks, we're checking to make sure that if I'm copying over from a field that has now been defined as a string of 2, that I only have 2 characters in the field that I'm copying from. So if I have a code field and the code is 2 characters long, right now in the database I could go in there and I could type a string of 17 characters if I wanted to. When I go to run the migration, it will show that as an error. It will say, wait a minute, you got 17 text characters in this field. Clean that up before you migrate. So that is what we're working on right now, and we need to get that done sooner than later, and here's the reason why. For any of you that have a third-party vendor that you want to share data with from PowerSchool, the fields need to be in database extension tables. We use what we call API functionality, and so the fields need to be in database extension tables in order for API to be, that functionality to be used to share data with other applications. And for example, PowerSchool recently bought InfoSnap, and John Paul's going to talk about that. And then we also bought another one called IA, which is an assessment application. And so if you want to share data with those applications, the fields need to be in database extension tables. So right now we have quite a few customers that are anxious for us to get this migration thing rolled out so that they can actually do the migration. And I know that I've talked to some of the IUs, and I know that some of the IU support teams at the IUs are actually going to do this. For run this migration for some of their school districts. So just letting you know that that's probably the #1 priority on our roadmap. Secondly is the STAR. I just talked to John Paul about that, and there has been off and on over the last couple of years. I think I'm starting to receive more and more emails about, hey, when are you going to do the STAR? So the STAR is an immunization report. So we have added that and pushed it up to the top of our roadmap. So so data migration, the STAR, and then of course any new requirements that the state comes out with, which we know, could possibly be a fair amount of new requirements. Okay, so I would say those top things for the next 6 months roadmap. There's a lot of other things that we have out there that we know we want to work on. We want to clean up your CTE student page. Right now, it's student fields and some of the industry credential records are kept in a virtual table, and I'm not sure how people are really using that page, and I don't really think that it's functioning the best that it can. But that, for example, is something that we're going to tackle later on next school year. For this school year, the main thing that we're going to be focusing on for as far as the roadmap goes would be the STAR, which is quite extensive, data migration, and then also what did I say? Data migration, STAR, and new requirements. I'm kind of anticipating that as far as new requirements goes, there's going to possibly be some change in regards to your assessment, and your pre-code labels for assessments. Right now, that data is collected on the student template, and there is talk, I can tell you right now, the state of actually possibly creating a whole new report. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not, but we are looking into redesigning that assessment page and making that a lot more user-friendly, so that right now when you hook a Keystone test to a section, it can be assumed that the students in that section are taking that assessment and should get pre-code labels, and then creating a way for you to opt students out when they shouldn't get pre-code labels. So that is another item. I don't really consider that to be a huge project, but something that we're also looking into, working on. Okay, that's pretty much it for me. Are there any questions? I do not know how to get back to GoToMeeting. I'm hoping everybody can still hear me.
Yes, we can. Yep. Let me get it switched. I'll leave you up here on the screen. Looks like we do have a question. Give me just a second.
Okay.
This is. Go ahead.
I can't see the participation window or anything, so I don't see the questions.
That's all right. I'll cover it for you. Is there a timeline for when the migration needs to be completed?
Right now there isn't. If there is like a mandatory requirement for migrating fields, then there'll be a tech note that goes out, and we will say you must migrate this file. And there is a possibility, so let me explain this. In order to add new fields to the re-enrollments table, the matching field, so I think it's better if I show it. This gets a little bit interesting and confusing. Okay, so we have our student enrollment pages, our current enrollment and our previous enrollment. And on our current enrollment, all this information right here is in the student table. And then in our previous enrollment, all the information there, as you all know, I'm assuming, is in the re-enrollments table. Often what we have is customers saying, well, Chris, that's really great. When you add a field to this page, to the current enrollment, can you also add it to the re-enrollments table? And when we create a new enrollment record, or when we do end of year, can you make sure that the data gets copied from the students table to the re-enrollments table? That requires us to take that field and put it in a file on your data, on your server, that we refer to as the config file. If we want to copy, say for example, the school choice transfer indicator, when you do end of year, from the current student table over to the re-enrollment table, we would add that field into the config file. Okay, so here's the scenario. I have data in a clogged field in the student table. I haven't migrated it yet. Now Chris just added a new field to the re-enrollment table, and because it's new and the new functionality is to use extension tables, she had to add it to the re-enrollment X table, the re-enrollment extension table, and she had to define it. Now my data in the student table is not good. It's got, you know, the field that she added, it's a string of this many characters, 9 characters, for example. But in my field, for some reason, I've got bad data, and I've got a bunch of extra characters. Now, when I go to create a new enrollment, it's going to fail because it's trying to copy data from the student table that's not been migrated yet, that's not in a defined field, that has bad characters in it, over to the re-enrollments table, to a newly added field, a matching field that's defined. We just tested this out. So when we release your data migration, there will probably be one data set that will be mandatory for you to migrate, and it will be all of these student fields that are in the student table and have a matching field in the re-enrollments table. This is just a newly discovered issue. Can't do end of year, can't create a new enrollment record unless that data is cleaned up. If you have bad data and you have a matching field in the re-enrollments extension table and you haven't migrated yet and cleaned up your data, you could run into problems. So we are going to force that migration, but right now that's the only one. All your reports should work correctly. Everything else should work correctly. And if it doesn't, then we'll let you know, and we'll send out tech notes and saying you must migrate this data set, and in order for this report to work correctly. So right now it's not mandatory, and if it does become mandatory, we'll let you know.
Okay, and then that was the only question that was listed here.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Chris. And I believe John Paul, are you connected? And we didn't test. Are you online?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Not really. You turn up your volume a little bit.
Let's see how. Oops. 1 second. Go to my control panels here. Alrighty. Let's see. Is this any better?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. So let me share my screen. Are you seeing the PowerSchool Update Pennsylvania PowerSchool User Group slide?
Yes, we are.
Excellent. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well on this Friday afternoon. I am cognizant that I am the last thing standing between you and your weekend. So I will do my best to cover these updates in a timely fashion. What I wanted to do today really is, I think it's been since last October since I was together with you online in one of these forums, so I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on where we've gone as a company. Back in October, I shared where we were headed, and happy to report that we're really heading down that path exactly the way that we intended, and making great progress in that regard. I don't know how many Villanova fans are on the line. There must be a few, I think. But for those of you who got wrapped up in March Madness and everything related to it, I'm going to give you a few live look-ins, so to speak, at some new stuff. One being Gradebook, another being our enterprise reporting solution, and a third being our new assessment and analytics toolkit. If you have any questions along the way, please do send them up through the chat window that Dave mentioned, and I'll do the best I can to answer them for you. So I think I may have even showed this slide or a slide like it back in October. I wanted to bring you up to speed on where we were as a new standalone company. Since that time, we have moved into our new standalone dedicated headquarters that you see on the screen. We've hired more than 80 people since that time. So really have made investments as a company in additional support staff, development staff, marketing staff, across the board, really across all functional areas, to continue to deliver you the best student information system we possibly can. We've also made a couple of investments that Chris alluded to in sort of an effort to broaden the scope of the kinds of services that we can deliver to you as a K-12 educational technology provider. Part of the vision we're really trying to implement as a company is to have PowerSchool be the hub of an ecosystem that really gives you a comprehensive K-12 educational technology solution, whether it's for matters related to operations, to things that happen in the classroom, to how we communicate with stakeholders within and outside of a school or district. And so when we think about PowerSchool being the hub of that system, there are a lot of kind of spokes to the wheel, so to speak. And historically, one of the things we've done as a company a lot better than many other companies out there is make it easy for PowerSchool to talk to some of these other spokes on the wheel, whether it's your LMS or it's your auto dialer system or your cafeteria system, whatever that other system might be. But as a new company, one of the things we're also looking to do is where it makes sense and where we don't feel we have the expertise to develop one of these spokes on the wheels on our own. Look at who is the best-in-class provider out there for certain kinds of these functionalities and add them to the PowerSchool product family. So since we were last together in October, we've made two such acquisitions. One is the acquisition of InfoSnap, which is now branded as PowerSchool Registration. And the other, in February, was the acquisition of a company called Interactive Achievement, who will be providing us with an assessment, or who have added to our mix of tools, solution for the creation and delivery of assessment online, as well as the analysis of student performance on those assessments. For those of you who had any familiarity with tools like SchoolNet or Pearson Inform or maybe performance pathways, this solution is sort of in that realm of educational technology tools. So PowerSchool registration being one of them, many of you I think have seen this solution before, perhaps even in this very forum or setting, so I'm not going to go over what it does in great detail. But what it really does, Chris talked about clean data in her presentation and the importance of it. Having an online way of collecting information at the point of enrollment or at the point of real enrollment ensures that re-enrollment ensures that the data that goes into the PowerSchool in the first place is as clean as can possibly be. Had a lot of success with customers in Pennsylvania already using this solution to streamline their processes and to ultimately save money by taking things that were expensive, laborious, and paper-based and streamlining them into a digital workflow. Also added PowerSchool Assessment, as I mentioned, to our suite of tools. PowerSchool Assessment gives you a very simple yet very powerful way to build and deliver formative and benchmark assessments, either online or in a paper or pencil scan sheet sort of way. One of the things that I certainly see across all of the states that I work with is an increasing emphasis on teacher evaluation. Solution has built-in reporting tools for monitoring student learning objections. student learning objectives, not objections, or SLOs, something that's continuing to be more and more important as we trend towards a teacher evaluation. I will, at this point, kind of hop out of the slides, and I want to give you an idea just at a high level of what this looks like, not an overall demo. We can certainly arrange one if one is of interest to anyone on the call today. But just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. Are you seeing the on-track assessment solution on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. So just briefly how this is organized, one of the things that struck me about this solution, and having worked with many solutions like it in the past, is its simplicity. It's very easy when you log into this tool to navigate the environment and figure out what it is you need to do. So on the left-hand side, we have news and updates. These are things like client newsletter. They might be webinars that you can access on how to learn to use the functionality. Pretty simple, straightforward. Right in the middle of the screen are basically the four things you might ever want to do when you're logged into this system. You might want to create a test. You might want to administer a test you've created. You might want to work with the data. Look at the results of any assessment that you've created, see how students did, make instructional decisions or perhaps district level decisions on how to allocate resources. And most of all, you might just need somewhere to get help. And talk about that a little more in just a moment. But if we click on Create an Assessment, one of the things this is my favorite screen in the whole application. You might be asking why, because you're looking at it and saying, well, there's kind of nothing here. That's kind of the beauty of it. When you go to build an assessment in the system, you really start with a blank slate. All the system's really asking you is what subject area you're interested in creating an assessment for. So if I go to math and I say I want to do 6th grade, I can see what those standards are for grade 6 in the right-hand panel. And then over on the right, I have my bank of items that I might want to use. And as I continue to drill down into any given standard area, I'll now start seeing some information on the item content available. You'll see some of these blue question marks, which indicate a multiple choice question, and then some red question marks, which indicate that a question is a technology-enhanced item type. You'll also see some of these item origin markers. In this case, it's indicating that it comes from our own item bank content. So we do offer item bank content of our own with this solution across the 4 core subject areas, K through 12. And then for those of you who have seen a SchoolNet or a Performance Pathways or Performance Plus kind of product, the same Certica item bank that's available in those assessment products and many other assessment solutions is also available as an add-on to this product. What you can see here is the Bloom's taxonomy data, the Webb's depth of knowledge data, and if you wanted to preview what that particular item looked like online, you just click on the preview, be able to see what it looked like. If you don't want to sift or navigate through all of that information, it's very easy to filter to the types of items you want. If you really want only the Bloom's taxonomy items that are level 1 and 2, you just click off the ones you don't want and filter. Or you could filter by ones that are not used, or could filter by security. So again, without trying to really do a demo here, just to give you an idea of how easy it is to create a test, it's as simple as finding the question you want and dragging it over into the item creation area. So I may have this wrong here. I may have had to create an exam first. Yeah, that's what I did wrong. So if I've created an exam, all I do to create the exam is just kind of drag and drop from this left-hand menu into the right-hand menu, and really that's it. Off I go. In the testing center area itself, You have a variety of ways to assign a test online, whether it is through, so if we pick a subject area here, we pick Math 6, and we pick an exam that we have, maybe a benchmark or a unit test. We had a variety of different kinds of options for assigning that assessment. So I can do all of the things that you would expect in terms of scrambling the questions, scrambling the distractors, being able to assign a password to that assessment so everybody can start that assessment at the same time. And then you have a dashboard that you can use to monitor students as they're progressing throughout the assessment. So if you see everyone's humming along, but another student has only completed 3 questions, you can go over to that desk and see what's happening. For those of you who aren't in a place yet to do online testing and do it paper pencil, one of the very nice features of this solution is that when you generate the pre-slugged answer sheets, there's a QR code that goes on to them. And what that allows you to do is, rather than even worrying about having a scanner, and you can use any regular old scanner to scan these in, is that there are apps available for the iPhone and Android that allow you to simply snap pictures of the answer sheets and have them upload directly to the system in real time in that way. Finally, there's a reporting area here. And all I really need to do when I'm reporting is to choose my context and what I'm looking at. Well, I think this is one of those cases where if you don't know your demo data, you don't get data. Let me move over to a slide deck that I have available to give you a little better idea of this. Just what some of the reporting options look like. So when I'm in reporting, on the left-hand side, you can sort of see what your context is, whether you're at the district level, a building level, a classroom teacher level, or a section level. Then see an overview of student performance broken down by pass rate. Those cut scores, of course, are configured by you. Then broken down by subgroup. And then as we drill into the information, we can get more granular, drill down to the standard level, see an analysis by item of what answers students might have made and what standards they assessed. And then lastly, breakdown of performance by standard and item itself, which you can kind of, in this case we're looking at the particular question and which one they got wrong, which one they got right, which distractors I should say. You can also flip this around on its head so that you're looking at the standard itself and then how people did in individual classrooms. You may have one teacher here, like Anna Ebersold, who's having a lot more success teaching this concept than their other teachers. So it gives you some insight as an educator to try and figure out what it is that Anna's doing differently in her classroom that she can share with her peers. So that was just at a high level kind of live look-in of what that solution looks like. Let me go back to my slides and we'll shift gears a little bit and talk about what the new gradebook is and what that does. So I hope by now at least some of you have had the opportunity to download the preview release that was released a couple of weeks ago from PowerSource. If you don't have a test server and want to explore what this environment is like, we do have a lab up on PowerSource where you can create a username and password on the fly and experiment with the new gradebook there. Our goals at a high level are to make sure that our new gradebook worked on any device, whether it was a Chromebook, an iPad, a Droid tablet, a laptop, whatever it might be, to put actionable data at teachers' fingertips, especially as it relates to standards-based grade data, and really kind of switch the paradigm that has existed with grade books. So yes, I mentioned that it works on every device, but one of the things that we learned when we were doing our design and development work on this is that the paradigm for most grade books is kind of stuck in the 1890s. Most of them are just a spreadsheet, the same spreadsheet that you might have used in a paper-based grade book decades and decades ago. We wanted to take advantage of what technology can do to allow teachers to complete their actual grading work faster. So instead of wandering around that spreadsheet, when you log in, what you're going to be presented with in the new gradebook is a list of what work you have remaining to do. These are the assignments that I have that still need to be scored. These are the numbers of them that I've scored. In some cases, I know that this assignment was due many weeks ago. I haven't scored any of them, so that might be the one that I want to do first. And then, of course, we have the emphasis on putting actionable data at teacher fingertips as well. As you can see in this screenshot, we're seeing a distribution of standards grades across all of the terms in the current year, as well as trend data about how a student is performing in this particular term compared to the prior term. So let's do another live look-in and get a little better view of what the gradebook looks like. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to sign in. So you can access the gradebook from one of two places. You can access it from a link in the left-hand nav, or you can go straight to the class in question and see it that way. I'll just hop in through my second period algebra class. And we can see that that test that I haven't scored is kind of jumping right out at me. There's a few ways we wanted to make it easy for teachers to do work quickly. We wanted them to be able to jump right into that assignment that they haven't graded and do their grading. But we also wanted you to easily be able to begin creating, whether it's creating a new assignment or creating a new category for your gradebook. One of the things that is part of this release is the ability to create, force, and lock those categories administratively, which is something I know our customers have been asking for a long time. Show you where that functionality lives in just a moment. When I go to create an assignment, it's pretty straightforward. A lot of it should be pretty familiar to your end users in terms of specifying what that assignment name is. What's a little different is rather than having to copy assignments from place to place or class to class, I simply determine right off the bat that this is going to be something that goes all four of my classes when I create it, so that I don't have to take that extra step of copying once I've created that assignment. Another powerful component of this is the ability to truly meaningfully differentiate instruction. You could kind of sort of do this in the old gradebook in that you could use the filtering in the left-hand side of Power Teacher to filter down to that and then assign it to them, but then for everyone else you would have to exempt it from.
Hey JP, if you can hear me, it sounds like we lost your audio.
I don't know if it's just the audio. He looks almost frozen.
Oh, yep, I see that too. All right. Let me just send him a message here quick, give him just a second. All right, it still looks like he's working on getting connected again. We can give him another minute or two, see where he's at here. Cheryl or John, did you have anything to add? So we don't have complete silence here while we wait for him to jump back on. In the meantime, if there's any questions for us as well, you can type those in the box and we go over those. We do have one question that was asked. I will get to that as soon as John Paul gets back online in regards to the assessment aspect.
Hey, I will make one comment, and I don't know if JP will get into it or not, but that release for the Power Teacher, if you install it on your test servers, unfortunately in the release notes it says that you can't install future PowerSchool updates on that test server, so you actually have to uninstall and then reinstall with a new version. So just want to make people aware that if you install the PowerSchool release that has the Power Teacher Pro feature, you have to uninstall to move your test server up in the future.
John, we just created a separate test server just for that one. We'll just get rid of it after that that non-production version is gone.
That's a great move. I actually didn't know until it was too late, and I updated my test server. So that's going to be more work in the future for me. That's why I wanted to let everybody know that if you have a second test server, if you just want to wait it out, those are two options as well.
And I'll also just quickly mention we're going to start updating next weekend our servers. I don't know if you saw on the requirements for 9. I don't remember which one it was, but it said that you have to upgrade your servers to Windows 2012 or something like that. It's a server upgrade by July 1st, 2016. I don't know if you were aware of that, but if anybody out there that hosts their own servers, if you're not, if you're hosted by PowerSchool, you shouldn't have to worry about it, but we have over 40 servers, so we're going to start upgrading our actual servers to that version, that Windows version or whatever they're telling us that we have to do next weekend.
Whoa, is everyone able to hear me?
I think we can now.
Yep.
I'm so sorry about that. My internet connection cut out for no good reason, and it took me a while to get it back up. So where did I lose you? I was talking about the grade book, and I was talking a little bit about the ability to group classes. Did we get through that part? Are you there?
I think that's right. That's right where you were. Right around there.
Okay. So we were talking about grouping classes. The gradebook will intelligently group classes by subject area as well as by time of day. So that if you have a French 3 and a French 4 that you're teaching in the same classroom at the same time, you can work with that roster of students and grade that roster of students all at once rather than clicking around multiple places. For those of you who are worried your teachers are going to freak out when they log in, don't worry. That old score sheet view that they're used to seeing is just one click away from the home screen, so they can go right back to kind of what that score sheet look and view feels like. When it comes to looking at student performance data, oh, that's why it wants me to log back in, because the internet loss. There we go. And I'm going to switch back to Q3 so I have some more interesting data. I can see what that grade distribution for traditional grades look like. But when I switch to standards-based performance data, I get some more interesting views. I can see a distribution of student scores based on any particular standard I've assessed and the number of times I've assessed it. And if I click into that data, I can then see that score distribution breakdown organized by students who have the lowest score first, comparing the trend data between how they're doing now and how they did in the prior quarter. All of this is also available at the individual student level. So if I want to pick on Knight Crawford here, and hopefully, this is what I'm looking for, sorry, is standards progress. And hopefully I'm not having further internet issues here. It just doesn't have data. It should, though. Try someone else. Something seems to be wrong with the demo server. It is not giving me the information that it should be. But you saw an example of what I'm trying to show here in my slides, in that you can view that information by individual student. And then if any particular standard has been assessed multiple times, 3 or more times to be specific, you can see that data plotted on a trend line, and then the metadata calculations are mode, highest score achieved on X number of recent attempts that you're familiar with from the current grade book. So let me head back to my slide deck and talk about just a couple of other things. One of the other nice features in our recent releases is the advent of enterprise reporting, currently available in a preview release. Will be in its full release in the back to school in June. Really what makes it a preview release is simply how it's deployed currently from a technical point of view, in that it plug-in. Doesn't mean you have to be using custom-made page management to use it. It simply means that you have to have custom page management enabled so that the plugin can function properly. This will be the same proposition for those of you out there who have some of our API-based integrations in play, where that plugin is needed in order for it to function. Sorry, I forgot one thing that I did want to point out to you before we go over there, as it pertains to the gradebook, which is that when I go into the admin side, you have the ability to force things at the district level. So pretty logically, if we're doing something at the district level, we're going to want to switch to district. And if it's district-related setup, we're going to want to click on district. And if it's related to grading, we're probably going to find it under grading. So we click on Power Teacher Pro Settings, and here's where you can see you can set up your calculation formulas, determine by school which calculations to use, Decide which teachers are going to use the new gradebook versus the old gradebook. Set up your category information, push it and lock it, as well as make some choices around standards, grade calculations, and preference display. So back over to my slide. Sorry, I nearly forgot that part of it for you. What enterprise reporting does is puts a very non-technical user face into the system that allows end users to generate graphical reports. So that's one way in which you can use this tool to create reports using sort of an Excel level knowledge of technology. There is also a very powerful developer side to this tool that will allow those of you with SQL expertise to basically have a user interface for entering SQL queries directly into the product to create your own data sets and to create your own reports. So a lot of simplicity on the one side and a lot of power on the other side. When you create a report like a student demographic report, I can display that data in a tabular format, but also in a graphical format, whatever it is that might be more appropriate for the given situation. And most importantly, perhaps, you have the ability to simply automate this. If you know your building principals need an attendance report every single morning at 9 a.m., just set up that report once, tell the system to whom the report is being emailed, and the system takes care of the rest of it for you. So for our live look into enterprise reporting, I'm going to go over to a different server. And we'll sign in. We access enterprise reporting from the left-hand navigation. And we have pre-built data sets that allow you to work with either graphs, so pre-built graphs, like year-to-date absences by grade, or predefined sets of data, such as demographics, grades, attendance, incident data, important for Pennsylvania, and test scores, so information that you might be keeping in the test score table of PowerSchool. If we pick grades as an example, and just give you a quick flavor of what these tools are like. Very easy for me to change my display if I want to see 50 rows instead of 10. Really the heart of this tool from a report creation perspective, this is the non-techie way, the sort of Excel level knowledge way, is through this actions menu. The first thing you're really going to want to do is to begin to filter your data in this data set. So if I decide I want to filter this to give me just all of the 12th graders, pretty simple for me to do that. If I want to apply a further filter and say, I want all of the ones in 12th grade with a credit type of math, and we filtered our selection down a little more. Once we've identified the data, then we can do all sorts of things in terms of formatting that data. We can choose sorts, we can choose breaks, we can highlight certain pieces of data. So if, in my example, ultimately I wanted all of the F's to pop off of a page, I could set that up to highlight. I can put computations directly into the report or aggregations of data we want to total up. And of course, I can also choose to chart this data. So if I want to chart this data, and I want to say course number for the label, and I want to say percent for the value, and I want to get an average, and I want to sort this by descending value in a pretty simple, straightforward way. I've created a grade report that allows me to look for my seniors. How are my seniors doing in their math courses by course? The real problem with Math 1001, where the average grade is just 65%, students in other courses seem to be sailing right along. But maybe I want to look at this a little differently. I don't want to look at the course. I want to look at teachers instead. I just pick teacher name instead, apply that. Now I'm seeing that same breakdown just broken down by the teachers in question. And I'm still having some internet issues, so sorry for the slowness there. So you can see it's broken down. Mr. Bliss's kids are doing great. Mr. Bennett's kids, not so much. So hopefully that gives you kind of a flavor of what the front end of this tool is like, how easy it is to create reports. And then, of course, once you created a report, how easy it is to automate getting that report out to people. I just choose who I want it to be sent to. Do I want it sent daily? Do I want it sent weekly? Do I want it sent Monday? When do I want to start sending it? When do I want to end sending it? So just a couple more updates. Let me there we go. So for those of you who are hosted, we have now migrated pretty much everyone over to our new hosting environment. I don't know if anyone on the line is hosted, but hopefully you've noticed a noticeable increase in performance and responsiveness of the application. The horsepower running our new environment is far stronger and far more powerful than our old environment that we inherited from Pearson. It's also far more secure, allowing all of the data that you have in our hosting center to be encrypted at rest using military-grade encryption technology. It also has far more powerful tools and monitoring tools for sniffing out and heading off DDoS attacks at the past. For those of you who are hosted, you probably have a pretty good idea of what that means and what that experience was like back in the fall. Lastly, we made a lot of investments in technical support and hiring additional staff so that we get to your calls faster and resolve them faster. And we are seeing, hopefully, and you're experiencing this too, a lot of positive feedback from our customers about responsiveness of the company being better in general and better in technical support in particular. But really what this is all about at the end of the day, our focus as a new company is to be focused on what the customer needs, whether it's from a support perspective, whether it's from a services perspective, or whether it's simply how we communicate with you as a company. I truly hope that over the past few months you've noticed that all of a sudden you're hearing from us in a more timely fashion, more often, with more valuable information, and that you're starting to see a lot of valuable enhancement being done to the core product itself as well. So that's what I had to go over with you. I'm happy to take any questions that we have from the group.
All right. Looks like we only have one question. Looks like we only have one question. Oh.
Okay. If I can see
Can
it.
you go ahead and turn your audio down?
Can you go ahead and turn your audio down? Let me try and do that. Is that better? Is that better?
I don't know.
I don't know. All right. Did you say there was a question?
No, my audio is coming back through, so we're hearing it.
My audio is coming back through. We're hearing its way. I'm sorry about that. Not sure why it suddenly started giving you feedback. Let me try one other thing. Is this better?
Let me test. Yeah, there we go.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Okay. I plugged a headphone jack into it. That hopefully will help a little bit.
All right. Let me just open up the thing here. Can you create district-owned assessments in this product?
In the assessment solution, absolutely you can. You can create assessments at the district level and then lock them for the use of the district only. The same thing is true when it comes to item content. You can lock and secure item content within the item bank to be only available for the purposes of district use.
Okay. When will the new grade book be available for teachers to use?
So that'll be in our June back to school release, probably right around the middle of the month of June. Usually we try and launch these things right before the first PSU so we can kind of make a splash with them. So that is our anticipated timeline.
And that's all we had for you, question-wise. We can give them a couple seconds. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to type them in the box on the right. Anything else then, John Paul?
No, if there are no other questions, I will give you a little head start on your weekend. Thanks for bearing through the internet issues with me, and have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
Great, thank you. Yep, and there's no more questions coming in, just thank yous. So that's the end of our meeting for today. If you guys do have any questions, please feel free to email us. You should have our email address, the distribution list, multiple ways to get a hold of us. If there's nothing else, then everyone have a good day. Cheryl and John, if you had anything to add before we signed off.
No, everybody have a great weekend, and thanks for taking the time to attend.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Have a good weekend, Dave. Bye.
Bye, guys.